Hot Springs Village Inside Out is a closer look at the greatness of Hot Springs Village, Arkansas and the surrounding areas. People, places, experiences. Hot Springs Village is one of the most beautiful places on earth. Join me, Randy Cantrell, and my co-host Dennis Simpson as we engage in weekly conversations to explore Hot Springs Village Inside Out. Today's show is brought to you by Central Arkansas's favorite radio station, KVRE. Find them on the dial at 92.9 FM. Stream them live at kvre.com. RE/MAX of Hot Springs Village. The award-winning RE/MAX of Hot Springs Village is the largest real estate office inside the village with over 30 full-time agents and support staff. Visit them to learn more about this beautiful place to solve your real estate needs. Call them today at 1-800-364-9007. Find them online at explorehsv.com. They are RE/MAX of Hot Springs Village at 1-800-364-9007 or online at explorehsv.com. Ike Eisenhower State Farm. Ike and his award-winning team have been serving the insurance needs of folks all around Hot Springs Village since 1998. Ike has qualified for State Farm's President's Club, Chairman's Circle, and Hot Springs Village Insurance Agent of the Year. Call Ike Eisenhower State Farm today at 501-984-4100. That's 501-984-4100. Find them online at ikeeisenhower.net. Call them today for all your insurance needs because, like a good neighbor, Ike Eisenhower State Farm is there. Since we started the show, which was summer of 2021, give or take. The website has the number of days on it, by the way, folks. If you're that interested in how old the podcast is, we put a ticker over there. I mean, what are some of the biggest changes that you've seen inside the village? It's a loaded question, maybe, but
I'm sorry.
It may be a loaded question, but because that's, there's a considerable period of time now. And I mean, it seems to me that there may have been more changes in that period of time than in any other similar period of time since you've been in the village.
Well, the one word I would say is there's been so much change, but the change has brought stability. We interviewed Jason Temple, loved Jason Temple, fantastic engineer, great guy. Man, Ken's doing a great job too. Ken Unger that took his place. I hated to see Ricky retire. It was just time for him to retire, and he had enough of being a policeman. And I want to say just one more time, man, those of you who are dressed in blue and go out and defend us every day. And, Randy, when you go do consulting, when I go do IT work or I go work on phones or I go do rental stuff, I don't worry about losing my life and not coming home that night.
No.
It's not a hypothetical to these guys. They get it. I think Christy's doing a fantastic job. That's Christy Bennett, the new police chief.
Speaking of that, I've got a question.
Sure.
I've had this curiosity, and I just shame on me if I haven't dug enough. So I know there's been a change in the police force in the village. Mm-hmm. Do you understand that? Do you understand the changes, and were they able to access some state money, some federal money by restructuring? I don't understand all that.
Yeah.
Then sorry to put you on the spot.
No. I'm not on the spot. I'm gonna repeat what a very high ranking official has told me.
Okay.
And that is, it's in the process.
Oh, so it's not a done deal.
As a matter of fact, the high ranking official that told me that said that it was premature when it was spoken.
Oh, okay.
That said, it's not wrong. It's just a little early.
But they're pursuing it.
They're pursuing
whatever this is. And the benefits to the village are going to be?
Well, it's funny you should say that, because I was going to tie into the next piece of that. Right back behind my shoulder is Lake Lago, which is the water supply. You may know about a property that lies very adjacent.
Yeah, I do.
And Lake Lago is our water supply. And as I mentioned on one of our episodes with Kelly Hale, if the village failed, if we were a failed POA and we just we didn't build the $6 million expansion we needed to do, and the 19,000 people here started pooping in the middle of the middle fork of the Saline River, which is a protected waterway, and we didn't take care of our wastewater and all that. It would be tens of millions of recuperation. It would be phenomenally expensive. And he said, that's true. And he said, we're working on some ways to rename and relabel some things so we're eligible for some recovery funds. And so, I interviewed Ken Unger, and he's talking about, and by the way, today on DeSoto, when I'm coming and going, they're redoing some of these culverts. They've got it down to one lane and whatever, right, and they're pumping the water across the street so they can keep it dry while they're spraying that concrete inside these culverts, saving us a thumbnail $1 million ish.
Right.
If Kelly pulls this off, and there literally are elements before the state legislature this legislative season, if they approve this, it could save us the better part of $6 million. Now, you talk about moving the needle. That's not moving the needle. That's kind of burying the needle. You know how long it would take for rate increases or POA due increases to increase $7 million?
Yeah.
A day or two.
Yeah.
So, and that's, once again, it's in the process. And that's the same thing. The state funds with the police, the state funds would allow us some matching funds. It would allow us to be simply because the people that are in here are in a private community and the general public can't come in, doesn't mean the police don't have the same responsibility here as they do out there.
Right.
We do send our police out. The tornado, first one in 20 years or 15 years that we had outside the gates. And it was nobody mentions this, but it was a F1. There were long discussions whether that was just straight high winds or whether it was circular. And if you saw the video on our Facebook page, you'll see there was a circular cloud that went over. And, the Hot Springs police were there immediately. The Hot Springs ambulances were there immediately. We didn't go, oh, I don't know, that's outside our jurisdiction. No, we were there. And by the way, there's a prayer of Thanksgiving this coming Sunday at 2 p.m. That's December the 6th, 7th, 8th. Yeah. It could have been a lot worse. Could have been dramatically bad.
Yeah.
And by the way, I was telling you about Karen, who helps manage our Airbnbs. She was actually sitting in the parking lot in her SUV, in her white Toyota, waiting for her granddaughter to come out. And she was going to pick her up. And the words she used about that tornado were, quote, "The rain came down like shattered glass." And I said, what do you mean? She said, it's as if the sky was made of glass and somebody just hit it and it broke into a million pieces and just dumped all at once. And she said, and then the car started rocking back and forth and some trees tipped over and then it was gone.
Yeah.
That was about 2:24. We didn't get a notice that there was anything even a warning or anything until 2:28. It had already happened, gone, and other end of the village probably, or at least middle of the village. And I think it must have been a simple type of microburst or something, but boy, it was, yeah.
Are there sirens inside the village?
No, there are not. And they're not in Garland County, and there's not sirens in Fountain Lake either. And frankly, to be frank about it, the way that the county, if you look on a map, if you see Saline County and Garland County, Garland, not so much, Saline County that way, about 2 miles, 3 miles. And then it goes nearly 45 miles the other direction. It's long and narrow and very, very, very wide. Any place in Saline County, if there's a tornado warning, any place in Saline County, they set the alarm off the county-wide. Well, we wouldn't have known that. It wouldn't have.
Cell phone alerts?
Well, yeah, we got cell phone alerts. I got cell phone alerts 4 minutes after it had already hit.
Yeah.
So
here in DFW, I mean, everybody's got every community, every municipality's got sirens.
Sure.
In fact, they tested ours yesterday at 1 o'clock, sent out a notice where, we're going to test it. Ours went off a month or so ago when we had some bad storms that came through here. but cell phone alerts, and they happen in real time. In fact, we usually get the cell phone alert before we hear the siren.
And that
Again,
has
it's in a
typically
major metro. It's in a major metro
Sure.
market. You know, I mean, come on, we're in a top 5 market in the country, so there's
Yeah,
that. So I'm not
yeah.
I'm not
Well,
comparing DFW to Hot Springs Village.
your urban density matters so much for you, but to be
Yep.
fair, and for those that are listening and watching around the world, literally, what you don't know is that Jesseville High School literally backs up to what we call the Lake Washita Forest Work Center, which if we have maybe 100 guys, maybe 80 guys who work in our part of 1.7 million acres of national forest. Okay.
Yeah.
And that work center is right behind the football stadium. In other words, there's nothing north of that except 1.7 million acres of national forest.
Right.
And there's nobody can say, hey, I'm coming down Highway 7 and I just want to let you know there's a big tornado coming down. Now they might be able to see it radar indicated, but number one, in the national forest, there's no cell phone service. So you can't even notify people.
Yeah.
It's a very different world.
Well, the good news is you're really not in quote unquote Tornado Alley, you know, as we have affectionately called it in the Oklahoma, Texas, you know, area. But listen, as we well know, I mean, that bad one that hit Tuscaloosa, you know, a couple of decades ago,
truly tragic,
and
truly
killed a number of people. So,
and my point being, I would have been, until this last weekend, I would have been a huge proponent for the towers and the alarms, and I get that. But getting a cell phone alert 4 minutes after the tornado has struck wouldn't have done anybody much good.
No, and I don't understand that, because the cell phone technology seems to me
it's immediate.
I mean,
I think what happened was I think we had a pending, and I check on this. We had a tornado watch in the area, and it struck and developed so quickly.
Right.
And there was no other way to report it. It literally dropped out of the sky as soon as it got out of the forest. As soon as it came out of 1.7 million acres of of national forest, which is all trees, it dropped down into the first open area, literally, which is the football field, came across the football field, wiped it up, and thank you, Jesus, rose up to go over the gymnasium. They had a safe room there. Guess what? Nobody got in the safe room because they didn't have notice.
Yeah, right. Not enough time.
They got in the safe room 5 minutes afterwards, 10 minutes after it hit, and passed on by.
No, these things have a mind of their own. Okay, so there's legislation up that, you know, if goes according to plan, then the village could be a huge beneficiary of, you know, and the kind of crazy thing for those of us that aren't steeped in history inside the village. I mean, come on, you own a home there, you live there, even if you live there part-time, and you're paying taxes and you're paying property taxes, and you're still a citizen in the community. You may or may not be a resident in the state, but you're still paying what you would pay even if you're in a gated community, which is kind of one of the things that's kind of puzzling, always kind of puzzling to me. It's like, okay, well, you're exempt from getting some things, but y'all all still pay what you would pay if you lived outside the gates, basically. But I do think Kelly is. I think Kelly's working hard. You and I both talked offline when we read a little bit about his bio, and neither one of us knew him at the time. Neither of us had met him at the time. And I remember telling you, I mean, it seems to me, I know this, given his background and stuff, the guy's an operator. And people can criticize it all they want, you know, stylistically or anything else. I believe, as a property owner and as somebody involved in this podcast, yeah, I think the village desperately needed an operator. I think we desperately needed somebody who was willing to dig in and do that. And I do think that it's hugely beneficial that it's a guy who was already there, a guy who was attracted to the village and came to the village and isn't looking to be in this position forever. I'm sure the guy's got literally bigger fish to fry at this stage of his life. So yeah, listen, I appreciate him and the whole staff over there, but I admittedly have a positive bias toward the people that do that kind of work.
Well, I mean, let's face it, and we talked about an operations guy. you know, we would like Jesus to be our general manager. We'd like him to work for less than 100,000 a year. We'd like for him to put in 50 to 60 hours a week. Never get tired if people criticized or complained, and be great at personal public relations and marketing and operations. Yeah, pick one, not eight, pick one. And my point to that is, you say Kelly is an operations guy, no question. And I think some of the other people, not to be disparaging, but just where it is, I think other people were learning on the job. And, here we get, frankly, a world-class talent from UPS that has been there, decades, knows how one of the tightest, most efficient corporations on the planet works, and walks in and goes, why are y'all doing that way? And nobody has a good answer.
Well, what I can tell you, the thing that I love, about him is just the curiosity to ask the seemingly naive and yet challenging question, because in my own leadership journey, that has just paid huge dividends for me. I mean, some of the biggest accomplishments that I've been able to make and help a team of people make in running businesses is doing just that, is saying, okay, why are we doing this? I mean, I'm looking at these numbers and I don't get it. Can somebody help me understand this? And when people look at you and go, and you're like, okay, well, you can put numbers to this stuff, and those numbers begin to really add up, and he's given countless reports in these meetings, of how much money, has been saved. And I know that for a lot of people, they look at that like, well, what sheer stupidity. And let me tell you, I don't care. I don't care if you're UPS. I don't care who you are. Stupidity is everywhere. And it's not because people are trying to, it's just because, entropy is a real thing. If you don't paint your house, it's going to decay. If you don't mow your yard, if you don't get your leaves picked up and taken over to Ken's house or wherever, which I hope everybody watched that show. I mean, if you didn't watch it this year, then watch it for next fall, because you're gonna need it. Leaving your leaves, I think, was how we titled that episode.
And let's be frank, 185 shows or so into this process. Look, some of them have been fantastic and barn burners and super interesting, and others are informational, and others, there could have been a sleeper here and there. But my point being, like with
others are like this one, they just suck.
Yeah, exactly. Like you and me just doing this the whole darn time. Hello, who's the guest?
You said hit record, and here we are.
Here we are. Well, and we're going to have to wrap up here in a minute to truncate. But what I was getting at is some of these episodes, and you talk about the term, and I like you using the term, some of these episodes are evergreen. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter next year. Doesn't matter the year after. Doesn't matter the year after. Go back and watch the Leaves episode, as you said.
Unless episode. Ken and the POA come up with some other solution that, that they think is more efficient. But I mean, man alive, being able to save money by just hauling, can you haul your leaves, and drop them off? We're sitting over here in Dallas, Fort Worth thinking, that'd be pretty cool, even over here. And they'll pick them up, they'll pick them up here, and it's not free. Nothing's free. We're paying for it. But I was visiting with somebody who lives up north, and they were talking about how, they got trucks that come by. They just push all their leaves out. Yeah. And they just suck them all up, and stuff. And I'm like, really?
Well, you're still paying for that too, but
of course you're paying big money for that. But
North Little Rock does that. Little Rock doesn't do it, but North Little Rock does it.
Oh,
North Little Rock's technically what we call Dogtown.
Oh, okay.
So there's that.
Right.
Yeah. No, people would pick up their people.
I assume that's not a term of affection. It's not an affectionate term.
People would pick up their dogs and carry them on a ferry across the Arkansas River to North Little Rock and dump them off, so that they didn't have a stray dog problem in Little Rock. They just dumped them in North Little Rock, and the dogs couldn't make it back across the river unless you brought them on the ferry or something. So hence Dogtown. I don't care for that term so much.
I see. Yeah. Well, I don't blame them. I don't blame them much. And
I was going to mention, though, he touched on, and he just briefly in a fleeting moment said, we're trying to do composting. and we're going to, to compost,
Right.
to take, you saw the footage. I literally had some drone footage where we
Yep.
went over these
Yep.
billions of leaves,
Yep.
and it kind of put the problem in better perspective,
Mm-hmm.
but to compost that and then to turn it into something that we could use in flower beds or mulch, or come on, man. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's an abundance of them, so you might as well leverage them for something.
Might as well make the most of them. Speaking of making the most of them, let's come back and do this again soon. So great to have you back, Randy.
Well, I've been here all along. I just hadn't been
On screen. Been on
haven't
screen.
haven't been forward facing. Listen, I will tell everybody. Listen, I'm alive and well, and I'll be very candid and tell everybody. I'm completely transparent about this. I stepped away. Number one, I had COVID. I got COVID. So July the 8th was the last episode that I was on till this one. And as we're hitting record, it's January the 5th, Thursday. Don't know when we're going to release this, but just so that you got some time frame here. And I had already been thinking about it. It just seemed to me, there's so many voices, and I want Hot Springs Village to be the star. I want our guests to be the star, and so I was just happy to, Dennis didn't ask, I didn't tell, I just made an executive decision and just did it, and just kind of blended into the background and continued to do, production and the behind the scenes stuff. And you all know, I'm energy management wise, I'm an introvert. I'm not socially awkward. I'm outgoing, but so Dennis and I we're wired very differently, which frankly is a good thing. If anything, I think it proves the point that, come on, we've all got something that we can add to the party and the conversation. But Dennis being there full time, I'm not, knowing the background and the history of the place, because the way this thing got started, you were the kind of the resident expert. Because I was just coming at this. Well, you were, because you've been there and you know a lot of people, and come on, folks. I mean, he's the guy that's got the Rolodex to die for, and I basically came over there, and I knew the people that were hosting us when we would come over, and I got to meet a few people, and of course that went up exponentially when we started the podcast. But so I didn't have any hangups. I had zero hangups about it at all. Stepping back, and we'll see what the future holds, but I still want, whether it's Ken or Kelly or anybody else that we have on as a guest, we want to highlight these people. We want to hear their story. And I told Dennis, come on, he and I can get on here and we can tell our stories when we want to, kind of a thing. And you got to be you, I got to be me, and it's all good. It's all good. So there's been no falling out.
Exactly. I think people need to know there is zero friction.
Oh, no.
That's the problem is that we're both so self-assured. We assume that people know that, and they don't, because that's no.
Well, I haven't gotten any feedback. I mean, I've had emails like, where are you at? What's, but and I've emailed people back, but I'm still very present in the Facebook group and stuff. Yeah. So, no, it was strictly, my voice just doesn't need to be here, as much as it was. I still feel that way, by the way. So I'm not making any plans of being involved in every episode. And I don't think anybody really cares, though.
Well, no, I mentioned this I think I mentioned this earlier. We were sitting, well, tell it, no surprise. We were sitting, talking, having lunch with Jeff Harrington at Village Hardware, who, great friend, and hopefully somebody we're going to be working more with. And we were kind of looking at the dynamics of how would this show help a hardware show, because everybody who watches is a homeowner or at least a renter to bare minimum. You got to live somewhere. And I remembered thinking, we're really better together. But I get your point. I really get your point that when there's too many voices, and I realize I'm the loud voice, and that's not my intent all the time. But there are too many voices, and your point being, the star needs to be Hot Springs Village inside out, and that needs to be clear. And I get it. I get it. But that said, I still want to do more shows, just you and I like this. I think as I know you, I know me, you and I talk about this and we're like, yeah, who wants to see this? And the bottom line is more people than you and I think want to see this. They
Well,
like
and I
this
don't doubt
interaction.
that. And I told Dennis before we hit record, and we've been talking, quite a bit in the last week or so to get to today. I mean, listen, folks, I've still got a boatload of questions.
That's what I was going to say. You ask good questions. You
My
got great
my
questions.
my experience inside the village doesn't date back beyond September 2018. And, and while I've made a bunch of trips there, and the trips that I've made tend to be 6 to 8 days at a time, it's still not a lot of time. It's still not a lot of time. And I drive through the gates and I still feel like I did, except that it's even better now because I'm in the right-hand lane. So that's always good.
And by the way, you had a great episode, Life in the Right-Hand Lane. I
Yeah,
love that show.
and I had no idea. I mean, I really thought that the hot pink stickers, I thought that was a joke. I had no idea that that was a real. Rhonda saw it and she's like, "Have you seen that?" And I said, "Oh, that somebody photoshopped that."
Hey, let's give that to the Texans.
I'm like, "There's no way that that can be real." So when the girl handed me that, I came that close to saying something, but I didn't. But I thought, well, I mean, they should be something that the people at the gate can easily spot, and they certainly can, but
They won't miss the hot pink one, I'm
no,
pretty
no,
sure.
they won't. So, no, listen, it's all good. We definitely want everybody to understand, we're trying to make the show better, always better, always better. I'm not telling you that we're successful at it. I'm going to blame Dennis for most of that. Most of that. No, listen, truth, just me to you. And I've said this to you before, but it's worth saying publicly. If you're a fish, you don't ask fish to climb trees. And one of us is a fish and the other one is a squirrel. I mean, there's your metaphor. I don't know which of us is which, but all that to say, he and I we're very, very different. Here's what you need to know as an audience. The things that really matter when it comes to core values and conviction and integrity and honesty and just wanting to do the right thing and absolutely being passionate and in love with a place. I mean, we just share that in spades. And there's the tie that binds. I don't want you to be me any more than I want to be you. We're both comfortable with who we are and what we are. And I think the audience knows that. I hope the audience appreciates that.
I hope they can see it. But you talk about integrity and honesty and love for the place. It's like an 11. It goes all the way to 11.
Yeah.
So it's like one louder.
Yeah.
That's exactly where we both are. And it's like a great marriage. And I mean this is sincerely, it's convenient that we see the world the same way. It's convenient. We don't have to argue about every little speck and tittle and whatever. But at the same time, it's because we have the same passion for the same place. There's nothing different at all. That having a common goal makes it that much easier.
Well, and I think the diversity of the shows, I would hope, if it doesn't benefit the people inside the village, and I would hope that it does, but it absolutely, I know, has some benefit to people that are outside the village that are looking at the village, and there's increasingly more and more of you who are looking at Hot Springs Village, Arkansas as a prospective place that you can get to, if not sooner than later.
Yeah.
Rhonda and I've made no bones about it. I mean, we've got solid plans afoot, to be there. I don't know how soon, I've shared with everybody. We got 5 grandkids here. The people that I love the most are here in Dallas, Fort Worth, Texas. The place that I love the most is there in Hot Springs Village. No offense to Dennis and everybody else in Hot Springs Village, but you're not family, So when you got 5 grandkids, that's a different kind of a challenge. But I hear from people regularly. You hear from people regularly. I know that Ike and Claire hear from people regularly that, are relocating into the village, and they've got their own dreams and ambitions. And I think it's great. I will hawk one episode of Leaning Toward Wisdom that I will put in the show notes.
And by the way, let me interrupt real quick. Leaning Toward Wisdom, I'm going to plug for you real quick. Leaning Toward Wisdom, leaningtowardwisdom.com, a wonderful podcast, has a YouTube video that goes with it that Randy's been doing for years. And basically, forgive me if I'm mistaken, kind of a memorandum to your kids and your grandkids. So, I mean, your voice being spoken.
Well, that's that's how it started. And that really pretty much is how it goes today, which is something else I think the audience needs to understand. I got two other podcasts, and
you got a day job,
and I'm on them every week. So it's not like I need mic or FaceTime. But I did an episode about, basically the theme was this, if you want to watch more parades, then you need to cheer more. And I know that we live in a world where it's just easy to throw cold water. And I come over there. Well, true story. So, man, help me. I went brain dead. Domino's. What's the young guy?
Starts with a K. Keith? No. Jason.
So Jason, manages Domino's, ends up being able to get the franchise. And I just think it's cool. I don't have a clue. I don't know any more details than that.
And we applaud him.
Yeah. So I go in and I pick it up, and I give him a card and I tell him who I am. And he said, "Yeah, I know who you are." And I'm like, okay, well, this is out of hand. But
yeah. Inescapable. I know who you are.
I'm just, it's those, I think those are great stories. I love those stories. I love it. You talk to somebody and, somebody's moving from Chicago into the Village, and you just hear enough of their story to kind of whet my appetite. And I'm like, I like it when people's dreams come true. I just think it's great. Yeah. I think it's terrific. Yeah. It doesn't have to be my dream, because I got my own dreams, but I want to see more parades, so I'm willing to sit over here and cheer more. And I think Hot Springs Village Inside Out, I think we've made some contribution to that effort. I would hope that we have. And I'll shut up. I'm done.
No, I promise you have. Well, let's wrap up this episode of Hot Springs Village Inside Out. I'm Dennis Simpson. He's Randy Cantrell, and we will see you next time.
Thanks for watching and listening to Hot Springs Village Inside Out, a weekly podcast starring Hot Springs Village, Arkansas. Visit the website at hotspringsvillageinsideout.com.